Sailesh Kolanu. They call me Psycho. I want to take the opportunity today to communicate with you guys. Psycho doesn't mean anything else. The first three letters of my first name and the first two letters of my last name. So it's not that I'm a psycho. Change the slide, please. Yeah. So, just to give you a brief introduction about me, I introduce myself as a professional optometrist, a vision scientist and an academician who suddenly woke up one day and decided that he wants to become a filmmaker. So, if you guys are looking for stability kind of inspiration from this page, you're not going to get that. I would want to inspire you to be impulsive. I would like to inspire you to live the life on your edge. That's what I stand for, because I took the leap of faith. Yeah, please change slide. So I landed in India from Sydney and I created this beautiful universe of corps called the Hitverse, where we have, those are my men, guys. I'm happy to tell you that I've started my the third project in Telugu. I'm just coming from the opening ceremony of that specific film. So it's going to be amazing, guys. I can promise you that. Yeah, please change the slide. Yeah. So today I was asked to talk nature versus nurture, right? So, like in my movies, I don't want to give you an answer. I want you to think and take the answer from my speech, from my talk today. So I will tell you my story, and you infer from it what does it mean. Am I here because of nurturing my my environment and becoming a filmmaker, or is it because I'm innately gifted to be a filmmaker? Okay. So let's begin my story, guys. We'll change this slide, please. Thank you. Okay. So a lot of people ask me, what's your method of writing a screenplay? How many movie enthusiasts here, writing enthusiasts here? Give me a shout. So I'll treat this speech as a way to teach you how to write a screenplay as well, right? So for people who do not know, screenplay has 3 acts. Okay, very simply breaking it down. The first act is the setup where your hero is all happy, you're showing what your hero is. And the second act is where your hero starts to struggle because there is a conflict. And the third act is where your hero actually finds a solution. And there you go back home happily watching your hero win. We'll go to the next slide. Right, so my act 1, guys. So I was born in Chennai. We were a family of 5 people. Those are my 2 lovely elder brothers. My mom and dad there, and you see me in the center there. That's me. I come from a very modest economic background. We used to live in a slum in Kodambakam in Chennai. My dad works in the industry. He started as a daily wage worker in the industry and he grew up to be a manager. That's the growth he could achieve. Dragging a family of 5 people, he was only breadwinner in my family. So I think he did a good job educating us and getting us to where we are. I'm very proud of him. My mom is a Telugu Pandit. She's a Bhasha Pravina graduate, and she's a homemaker by choice because she chose to raise very decent and beautiful children, gentlemen. I'm talking about my 2 brothers, not me. Right? So we were a very happy family living in Chennai. We go to the next slide. My schooling was in Chennai as well. I studied in a matriculation school. Again, it's not a very plus school. I don't believe in where you study is not important. How do you perceive education is the most important thing. So I had the opportunity of having beautiful teachers in my life. So I was a very bright student. I was always among the top 3 in my class. Very proudly say that, because now I'm not at all in education anymore. So yeah, we'll go to the next slide, please. And there was a little bit artistic inclination in the very early days. And this is where it all started, because I used to think of ways to express myself artistically. That was the very first stage play that I did. You can see me on the leftmost side playing a god. right? And I also wrote the dialogue for that specific play in my school when I was in my 4th grade. That's the very first work. And that's me during my maybe 6th or 7th grade trying to express myself musically. I'm still learning the keyboard. I think all the keyboard teachers that I've had, they must have built a house, I'm sure, with all the fee that I've paid them. I've still not managed to learn how to play that. I'm still on it though. Change the slide, please. So everything was going amazing, and the Telugu industry suddenly moved to Hyderabad from Chennai, because we were all living in Chennai then, and all of a sudden my dad was jobless, and we had like about 4,000 rupees in our hand, and my dad had to find a job. So he left us in this small village called Tenali, which is in the Guntur district, where my mom's parents were. So we were living there for a year when my dad came out to Hyderabad searching for a job. At one point in time, he was willing to drive an auto rickshaw to feed us. But my mom said no, because not that we look down upon the working class of people, but I think she felt that my dad wouldn't grow much if he started driving an auto rickshaw. That would impact our education. So my mom did not allow him to do that. And he ended up scoring a job in this amazing organization called Prasad Film Laboratories, and he's a small manager there. He was managing the outdoor unit, and he started earning decent money to bring us back to Hyderabad, and that's when I landed here in Hyderabad in 1998. Okay, so that was my first act, guys. Everything is happy so far, right? Now the conflict begins, and I don't want to piss off my dad, but in this story, my dad is my villain, okay? Because the conflict was career choice, and because I told you, right, there was a little bit of artistic inclination inside me. So after my 10th standard, I wanted to do something artistic, and my dad said no, you have to take up MPC, because obviously the most obvious choice of career here is engineering and medicine, and I have nothing against it because the world is going in that direction. But I think I was somewhere deep down my heart, I felt I was not cut out to be an engineer. I will be a bad engineer if I be. That's what I strongly believe. So there was a conflict between me and my dad, and somehow I gave up and I said, okay, fine, let's do an MPC. But in my mind, I made up that I'm going to do MSET really, really bad so that I don't get into an engineering college, right? So there started my, we'll go to the next slide, please. That's my monkey batch of intermediate friends. We were the last benchers, and I think all of us had a similar mindset that we don't want to do engineering, okay? So I made sure that I passed the IP exams with good score, but I intentionally made sure that I did not pass my MSET exam, right? So I got a really big fat number. Cut to on the same night, all these buggers, they got into an engineering college. I was the only one left stranded out. I'm standing there with a 6-digit rank, and I go back home. And suddenly everything changes, right? I was a hero at my home all the while, and then nobody speaks to me. They started looking down upon me. And that's when I expressed to my dad, you know what? Let me do something artistic. And he said, I'm going to give you a kick on your bum. He said, you will do anything, but you will get, if you want, you do the MSET once again, but you're going to get into an engineering college. I said, no, Dad, that's not going to work for me. So that is when we found a middle ground, and we found this course called Optometry that BITS Pilani was offering. Okay, go to the next slide, and all of a sudden cut to this amazing batch of all studious people I was hanging out with, and I was feeling very out of place. But one day I made up my mind. I said, you know what? For the next few years, I'm going to focus on my career, because I suddenly started feeling that I was not getting enough respect at my home. What was there right from my childhood, wow, Sailesh is a bright student, that just vanished. And somehow I started believing that the society is also going to reflect the same thing on me. So I made up my mind that for a few years, I'm going to focus on my graduation and just become a good optometrist. Because hey, they say it doesn't matter what you are. If you're a driver, be the best driver, right? So I thought, let me be the best optometrist, and I started studying really hard, and I graduated with a CGPA of 9.54. And I was one of the toppers of my batch. I had probably the second highest CGP in the class, I guess. So after that, I worked as an optometrist in Hyderabad for about 5 years, and in the same college, I met the love of my life, Swati, and I somehow could convince my dad now that I earned a little more respect from them at home, they all agreed and we very happily got married in 2012. And I applied for a PhD in Sydney and I scored a scholarship of 2.5 crores, which is given by the government of Australia, and they paid for my living expenses and they took me to Sydney to do a PhD, right? We'll go to the next slide. So suddenly there you go, redemption, right? So everybody respects me, Sailesh is living abroad now, he's earning good money, and that's how good boys are supposed to be. But no, I told you the artistic kida that was there in my mind, it was still bugging me. So I started resorting to writing. That is when life changed slowly and eventually, right? I started writing short stories. I started writing just for the sake of it, without any kind of expectation. Because that was my channel to vent out my artistic expression. That was my channel to vent out my frustration because of the mounting pressure during a PhD. Because I underestimated the amount of effort it needs to become a doctor. And when I was doing it, I realized that no, this is extremely pressure. And so I started resorting to writing to get that pleasure of, oh, I want to just relax right now. And that went on for about 7 years. Can you change this slide, please? That went on for 7 years, right? Next slide. So during the 7 years, I was writing, I was reading books, so there is this beautiful app called Masterclass. If you can afford it, because it's a little expensive, but I worked my way through it. I did some part-time jobs and stuff to get, earn money back there. So I had access to this amazing app called Masterclass, where there are amazing lectures by masters. You name the craft and you have a lecture to help you out, garnering that skill. I did workshops, I did focus groups. This is the most interesting thing. The focus groups are my friends. I used to call them home and narrate them stories, right? So when I started writing, the initial stories were really bad. Very, very bad stories I used to write in the beginning. Change the slide. So this is how a typical, my Sydney focus group used to look like. We used to have a couple of beers, we used to have biryanis, and there used to be a FIFA playing somebody, and I used to narrate a story to them. And most common reaction was, bro, just don't try all this now, just focus on your research, why are you wasting your time, right? This was the most common thing, except for one day, when suddenly, change the slide please, but one day all of a sudden, next one. One day all of a sudden someone said that, whoa, this script really sounds good and we can see the movie on the screen. And I wrote that script keeping Nani in my mind. That's how Nani came into my life. Because I felt, I'm not going to shelve this script. Right. That was the first time I met him, right? So I thought, I'm not going to shelve this script. I'm going to just board a flight and come to India and try to meet Nani. Whoa, that was a huge thing, right? So I did board a flight, very novice thinking. I came down to India and I was just trying to figure out how do I meet this person. And it was extremely difficult, but look what, the universe connects you to the right person if you're destined to get it. I believe in that. Cut to, all this happened, after I met Nani, because he incepted a very simple idea. He listened to my story for a couple of hours and he said, because I came to India not to direct a film, I just wanted to give my story to him because I never knew I could direct. I wanted to just give my story to him, go back to Sydney and do my job. And Nani said one thing, the amount of detailing that you have given in your script, if you give it to anybody else, it is going to impact the way that it is going to go on the screen, so you need to direct the film. And that was a life-changing moment for me because he incepted the idea into my mind that I could be a director. Then I went back to Sydney. That is when the actual struggle started, right? Now there is an idea in my mind that I can be a director, but I am sitting 10,000 kilometers away from Nani who incepted the idea, and I don't know anybody from the industry other than this guy. So I used to message him on WhatsApp, trying to figure out when can I come and meet you, and can you give me an appointment and stuff. And I used to get scared because what if he thinks I'm this stalking guy, and what if he blocks me and that's it, my dreams are shut, right? So what do? So I started visiting India very frequently. So every month I used to come at least once. I was blowing up all my savings on it, and by then I finished my PhD. I was a graduate, I was a doctor, but I refused to take a full-time job because if I take a full-time job, I wouldn't have the freedom of traveling to India whenever I want, and I cannot be here whenever I want. So I took a part-time job, and then I started blowing up all my savings, just to come here. And Nani never knew about this. He was thinking this is the guy who frequently shuttles between India and Australia. But I was actually spending money and coming here for sometimes I used to just come here and say, hi bro, how are you? I just wanted to come and say hi to you. So that he remembers me, so that he takes me seriously, right? So eventually, and there was a moment when we both cracked something. Can you go back? Eventually, there was a moment when we cracked something. That is when the hit the first case story was narrated to Nani, right? And he loved it. He said, you make it, you direct it and I will produce it. And I was like, wow, what is this, right? There is this guy who's been in the industry for about, 10, 12 years, and he's blindly putting his money on me, trust me so much, but I'm not even sure that I can handle a film because I've never been on a movie set. All I have is a zeal to tell good stories, right? So I told Nani that, bro, I want to take some time to decide when I want to do this movie. Can you help me with that? He said, fine, take all the time you want. That's when I went back to Sydney and I started self-examining myself. Am I actually worthy? Am I actually capable enough of handling this project so that I don't waste Nani's money, right? So I went back and I started doing short films just to see whether I can translate the idea that is here onto the screen or not. And that's what is the process, right? And then I could translate the idea onto the screen, but then one ultimate test was this short film called Uniki that I did, where I decided that I will bring my hard-earned money. I wanted to be the producer of a film, to know what's the value of money when it goes into a film, right? So I brought my own money of 6 lakhs, hard-earned money, 6 lakhs, and I traveled down to India and I did the short film with Srinath Magandi, who plays an important character in the hit verse as well. And that was the first time I met him, in the capacity of an actor. I told him the idea that I want to do a story where it's about a travel blogger. So we traveled from Kanyakumari to Himachal Pradesh, just in buses and trains, with my money, just 3 people. I was lifting the lenses, I was running around as an assistant director, I was clearing the crowd, and I was doing everything that is required to be a filmmaker, just to test myself that the core DNA of wanting to make a good film is intact. That I'm not coming here just for the vanity of it, I'm not coming here just for the luxury of it, just for the glamour of it, right? So we traveled in general compartments in a train. I took bath in a railway station because we couldn't afford hotels. And we made this beautiful short film. It's on YouTube, you can watch it. And we made this beautiful short film of 12 minutes. And it may not be my best work, but I'm really, really proud of it. Because I can assure you that no other filmmaker, no other short filmmaker will be able to do that with that much budget. And that is when I came back to Nani with the footage. And I showed him the footage and I said, bro, this is what I am. This is where I stand as a filmmaker. If your offer is still valid, I will take up this offer. And he watched the film and he said, it's an amazing job. You didn't have to do this because you already had the offer. And I really appreciate that. And that is how that happened. So you get the gist of it, right? I'm just trying to tell you, I had this really strong zeal of wanting to tell good stories to the audience, and you see how the universe connected me to the right set of people. So it's not about just nurturing your environment to get a specific skill set. I think there are many forces around you that decide where you go in your life. And I think if your intention is correct and if you're an honest person and you really want to do the right thing will happen to you. And that's my story, guys. So I will let you decide if I'm a filmmaker who nurtured the environment around him to become a filmmaker, or I'm an innately blessed filmmaker. Thanks a lot for having me here. Thank you so much.